Everybody rise for the Honorable Judge Bishop.
Hangover guy, yeah, hangover guy.
Wait, rising for what? Wait, what?
Thank you. You can all be seated. Thank you, everybody, for making it. Today, we're here to we are here to go over case 0010, Alejandro Vasquez versus the San Andreas law enforcement. Who is representing Alejandro Vasquez?
Private Attorney John Wolf.
And the defense?
District Attorney Jericho Bain.
All right. I expect everybody to keep comments to a minimum. If you are too loud, if you seek to fight, if you seek to sling profanity, I will have you escorted out of the court and I will send you to Bolingbroke. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Papi,
Sure.
dale.
All right, prosecution, opening statement.
Okay. Hello, everybody in the court. Obviously, we have a full house today. I thank you all for attending. Today, myself, Private Attorney John Wolf, and my client Alejandro Vasquez bring to the people a case of clear injustice to a law-abiding citizen of the state of San Andreas, to which the defense, San Andreas law enforcement, has denied from the very beginning. While I describe the situation to you all, I ask that instead of picturing Alejandro Vasquez in the situation, that you instead picture a loved one or close relative to you all. Going about their day, minding their own business,
Yeah, me too.
and being a lawful citizen. On Thursday, May 28, 2020, Mr. Vasquez was making his way down to PDM, his place of work, from the mechanic shop in Harmony. He was heading down Sonora Road, and upon coming to the end of the road, by the stop sign, he heard gunshots erupt. At the time, he was unsure where the gunshots were coming from, and he decided to make an effort to get out of the area as soon as possible, so he made a left towards the highway. Upon making this left, he witnessed several officers in a prison bus, to which he decided to stop his car. Immediately, without warning, the officers unloaded a barrage of gunfire from their rifles towards the direction of Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Vasquez suffered multiple near-fatal wounds at the hands of the officers on scene. Not only was Mr. Vasquez left there to bleed out and die by the police on scene, but there was never even an incident report or shooting report made by the police. So according to the police, this event never happened. My sole purpose today is to bring justice to not only Alejandro Vasquez, but everyone in the city that has had similar, if not worse, occurrences,
Yeah,
swept
this
under
happened
the
to
rug
me.
by San Andreas law enforcement. My question to the defense, the Honorable Judge Bishop, and the people of Los Santos is, if the police are not required to have the responsibility to process the correct paperwork and identify the correct individuals before firing deadly weapons upon them, then what is the difference between the people that are meant to protect the streets that wear the badge and the people that roam the streets that wear colors? I conclude.
Amen, my brother.
The plaintiff rests.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wolf. Defense, you have the floor.
It's Your Honor. Be facing the jury. Ladies and gentlemen of the invisible jury and judge, my name is Jericho Bain. I am the district attorney within the Department of Justice. Today's case is no case that is seen often in these courts. Today's case is one that will change history and set precedents. You will hear the testimony of many individuals experiencing harsh conditions that include being engaged upon with heavy automatic weaponry, returning fire next to their downed brother. Ladies and gentlemen of the invisible jury and judge, what will be proven here today in front of you is that the prosecution, Alejandro Vasquez, and his respective attorney, John Wolf, cannot, beyond a reasonable doubt, with factual evidence, prove to you that it was law enforcement officers opening fire onto Mr. Vasquez, risking his life. We thank you for your time, and we believe at the end of the day, you will make the right conclusion. The defense rests, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Bain, I'll remind you that there is no jury. I will be striking invisible jury from the record. Thank you.
Understood, Your Honor.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
would you like to present evidence or witnesses to the court?
Yes, I'd like to bring Alejandro Vasquez to the stand.
All right, Mr. Vasquez, please step up to the stand. It is going to be here on my right.
Yes, Your Honor. There's a glass pane there? What the?
Oh, I know. Plexiglass, just like in the hockey rinks.
Oh shit, I got a fire. I'll be back.
All right. Bailiff, can you swear him in?
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
God, he didn't say Foster.
I will remind you, Bailiff, that there's no God here. There's only Foster.
Oh, it's you.
Sorry about that,
bitch.
Judge.
You son of a.
All right, Mr. Wolf.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Sir, first question for you for the record here. What is your name?
Alejandro Vasquez.
Where do you currently reside?
I reside amongst various hotel rooms.
Okay. What is your purpose here today?
I'm coming here to speak on behalf of what occurred to me and to try to help prevent things like this happening to citizens in the future.
What happened to you?
I was on my way down to work. I'd made a small detour to go and look at houses because I have a pending real estate application, and I do these things in my spare time, as many people can attest to. And I happened to turn down the wrong street. I witnessed an altercation between police and some unknown individuals. I immediately tried to depart the situation and ended up getting gunned down in the process.
Okay. At what point did you resist from the police?
No point. No commands, whatever. No commands, whatever made.
Okay. How do you know that you were gunned down by the police?
Because the bullet fire that was coming my way was coming from the prison bus transport. I witnessed multiple police taking cover around it, and after I was downed and had medical attention in the hospital, the rounds that were pulled from me apparently were of heavy assault caliber, which, to my knowledge and my understanding from talking to police and other witnesses, only the police were utilizing that day.
Yes, sir. Judge Bishop, I'd like to refer you to the evidence submitted, which in fact was carbine rifle rounds by the medical professional that took care of Alejandro Vasquez at Pillbox Medical.
Noted.
Let's see. What kind of injuries did you sustain by the gunshots?
I received multiple gunshot wounds. One went through my left arm through and through. I had two in my shoulder, one of which shattered my collarbone, but I also took, apparently, it looked like a ricochet round to the head. It left me incapacitated for some time. I had to have major surgery, including a plate instilled into the side of my head, and spent some time in the ICU.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Vasquez, but when you have a plate inserted into your head, that requires long-term administration of medicine throughout the rest of your life.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Is there any other long-term care you were advised of from the medical staff at Pillbox Medical?
They said that I would need perhaps some physical therapy. I opted to not go through the physical therapy myself, simply because I have a lot of prior experience with my history in the military of how to handle these things. I did, under advisement and prescription of the doctor that treated me, I did utilize the medicine and the pills utilized for mitigating the pain and stress. But even undertaking them under the guided and prescribed method, they did run out, so I have to deal with headaches every day.
Of course. You said you have prior experience in the military.
Yes, I do.
Is this the United States military?
Yes, it is, as well as a private military contractors under the Merryweathers.
Okay, what branch were you in?
I was in the army.
Okay. Let's say if this occurrence happened in the military, what would be the response from your higher command?
A lot of internal investigation, potential court-martialing, things like that.
So, in your
Why
opinion,
they
even
not
if
here
this
to
was to
yours?
happen
This
in a
motherfucker
war
whispering
zone,
or what?
this would
Objection,
be an
Your
issue.
Honor. I don't see what relevance this has with this case.
It's proven.
Sustained. Please, where are you going with this, Wolf?
Well, I'm just trying to prove the connection that even in a war zone, this type of behavior is not warranted or allowed and would have severe punishment. And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe the city of Los Santos is a war zone. I believe it's a city.
It does not
with
matter what is
citizens.
allowed in a
Does not
war
matter.
zone. It only matters what is allowed in this city.
Yeah, this is a city. This isn't Fallujah, okay? In the height of the war. Let's
Understood.
continue on, please, Mr. Wolf.
Okay. I actually have no further questions. I rest.
All right, defense. Do you have any? Do you wish to cross-examine Mr. Vasquez here?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Vasquez, in your statement that you made to the court, you stated you have former military experience. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how long were you part of this military for?
I was a part of the United States military for 15 years, and then with the Meriwethers for 4.
Okay. And are you aware of the what happens to you if you perjure in today's court, Mr. Vasquez?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You stated that in a war zone, you are to identify your targets before engaging them. The fact that the highest ranking members of the department are unable to do such a thing means that they need to be retrained or fired. How did you come to this conclusion that it was high command or command in general that were
Objection,
making
Your
these
Honor.
decisions?
This ruling was objected from before.
Yeah, sustained.
Your-
Mr. Bain, you're on thin ice, and I'll be waiting for you when it cracks. Please rephrase your questioning or find another question, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Vasquez, is it true that you had no further recollection of the incident after you
Yeah.
engaged upon?
After I passed out, I don't remember what happened to me until I woke up in ICU.
Okay. And what was the last thing you remember?
I remember getting out of my car, placing my hands up, showing the police I was not a threat from about 300-400 yards away, and still being fired upon.
Your Honor, the defense rests their case.
Yeah, that shit happened to me too.
May I be able to ask a question or two of this witness, please? This is Mr.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Kane, the second chair, please.
Yeah, you may approach.
Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, sir. If you wouldn't mind jumping, please.
Oh yes, of course. Mr. Vasquez, could you tell us where you were while this incident occurred?
What are you?
What was your location?
Initially, I came from Harmony in the north and was heading south on the highway before I took the off-ramp to start heading into Vinewood Hills.
Did you
just
see
shut
any
the fuck up in the
officers on
corner,
the scene?
please?
Not until I got to the stop sign at the top of the on-ramp. That's when the gunfire I heard. Well, that's when I heard gunfire. I initially didn't know where it was coming from. Began to take a left, saw that the prison bus was there, began immediately backing away, and then was fired upon relentlessly.
Any police officer vehicles in the area?
Not anywhere other than on the bridge. Did not see it until I turned.
Did they have their lights on?
No,
Were there sirens going?
no. Not at the time.
All right. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Mr. Wolf, do you wish to redirect or have further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have any further questions?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you.
Mr. Wolf, do you have any other evidence or witnesses to call forth?
Yes, I'd like to call Mr. Nicodamus Van Hagen to the stand.
All right, please approach Mr. Nico. I'm not even going to try your last name, sorry.
You're fine, Judge.
Just give me a second, Your Honor. I have some evidence to file here.
Okay, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Foster?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Jesus Christ.
You're literally gonna make me cringe.
You wanna step in on this? Afterwards. You wanna step in first?
Okay.
Well, we'll see what he says first here.
Hmm.
Excuse me. We'll see what he says first.
So today, I have your report you made here at Pillbox Hill Medical. Do you mind if I hand this to you, Mr. Van Hagen?
Yeah, sure.
About what's happened at the scene.
Perfect. And would you mind,
Well, I missed it.
I guess, reading that to the court and explaining best you can on some of the medical terminology? And
All right.
Essentially, we can go over the injuries where he had a GSW, which is what we classify as a gunshot wound, obviously to the right side of the head, 2 gunshot wounds to the right shoulder, and a gunshot wound.
Can we make sure you're talking very loudly?
Yeah, make sure you're shouting, Mr. Van Hagen-Dazs.
Yes, we had a gunshot wound to the right side of his head, 2 gunshot wounds in his right shoulder, and a gunshot wound to the left arm. The gunshot wound to the head was what we like to call a tumbler round, where from the black paint on the round itself it had actually entered into the wound channel, and from the deformation of the bullet itself, it struck some form of black metal before entering the skull and then penetrating the brain lining and following through into the wound channel. We then removed a skull fragment so that we could get inside, because obviously we have to get in there to actually remove the round and to clean the wound channel out. So we removed the round, we cleaned the wound channel, and we stopped the intracranial bleeding that was going on at that point. And we also ended up removing a cavernous sinus thrombosis, which is, for lack of a better word, a widowmaker, a very large blood clot in the sinuses of the patient from the severe kinetic head trauma. At which point we attached the skull fragment to the steel plate and then attached the steel plate to the skull. It was our hope that the skull would be able to anneal and heal. That's to be seen as it stands right now. He'd have to come in and have the steel plate removed to see if it is actually reformed, if you would. Moving on to the first shot to the right shoulder. Sorry, am I interrupting?
nope. I just continue and let me know when you're done.
All right, moving into the first shot into the right shoulder, there was an arterial bleed in the subclavian artery. We went ahead and stopped that bleed and performed emergency half cauterization and emergency sutures to essentially seal up that artery. Again, we removed the round from the musculature and cleaned out the wound channel and then patched him up. There was no exit, as I was saying. The second round to the right shoulder was actually the worst, where again it was a complete shear of the subclavian artery in there. So again, we stopped the bleed, we reconnected it, and then we actually decided to not go for the standard clavicle repair. We didn't go for the multiple plates because the left clavicle, the collarbone, was actually completely fragmented and broken. So we actually went with a 2-piece custom-made steel mesh that we ended up going through and reconnecting everything as best we could, and then we screwed that together and tightened it as best we could at the time. We then again removed the round and cleaned the wound channel, of which it did have foreign material in it. So we made sure we got that out, got him some antibiotics to take home, etc. And then we patched him up. Moving on to the left arm, it was a simple through and through, just musculature damage, no bone issues, no arterial bleeds. We went through and essentially just kind of sealed that up and decided to keep it for observation.
Okay, perfect. And just some follow-up questions. Are you in fact a medical professional trained?
Yes, I was. I am no longer employed at Pillbox. However, I was a doctor there.
Okay. Were you the main person who cared for Mr. Alejandro Vasquez during this time?
Yes, I was.
Okay, perfect. So in your your professional medical opinion, do you believe that Alejandro Vasquez suffered fatal wounds on that day?
Yes, he was shot in the head. He had a round that, even though it was following the curvature of his skull and tearing through
Your
his
Honor, I
brain
moved to
lining.
strike. If they were fatal wounds, he would have died. He did not die, so they were near fatal wounds.
Objection.
Sustained. He is
Okay,
still
let me reword
alive.
my
He is in
question.
this courtroom today. Where are we going with this, gentlemen?
Let me reword my question. Did he suffer near fatal wounds, in your professional opinion?
Yes, there were multiple. Like I said, it was like the carbine round, the medium caliber carbine round in the skull that we actually removed. There was we'll just call it a Widowmaker so we don't have to go through the terminology. There was the Widowmaker that we removed where at his age, diet, health, etc., the most likely explanation for that would have been severe head trauma. Again, bullet to the brain. Sorry. On top of that, there was the tear and then there was the shear of the arteries. So you're talking about that we had to legitimately essentially reconnect an entire chunk of an artery that had been severed. It isn't just that we kind of like patched up a small hole in it, it's that we took two ends of an artery and reattached it, essentially like splicing wires or splicing tubing together. So those all in all were very near fatal, I guess you could say.
Okay, and my final question. In your professional opinion, do you believe that the injuries that Mr. Alejandro Vasquez suffered were attached to heavily powered weapons only belonging to the state law enforcement of San Andreas?
I believe that he was shot by medium caliber carbine rounds. What I can tell you is that from the way that the government has these things set up for emergency services, is that a caliber carbine round is only obtainable by either a 5.56, a 7.62, ARs from either the PD or from a AK-47 or RAS-47, however you would like to coin it, from a criminal. However, as I said, we can't tell which is which. I can only go by what bullet we pulled out of him, and I can tell you that it was a carbine round. So it was not fired
Okay.
from a moving vehicle or anything. It was fired by somebody that was stationary.
The plaintiff rests. I have no further questions.
Okay, it's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Defense, do you have any questions for the witness?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. Mr. Van Hagen, is it?
Yes, sir.
Well, excellent. What you said that you're no longer employed at the Pillbox Medical. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you work there very long? How long were you there?
I would say roughly 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. And in that time, did you treat various wounds or anything like that?
Yes, every day.
Every day.
Yes,
Okay.
every day there were
Were they
multitudes.
very serious?
Some of them were. It's like I can't tell you everything about that, of course, via HIPAA.
Well, all right. Did you ever treat any wounds that contained the same kind of rounds that were used in this particular case?
Me personally, no, I did not.
So this is the only one that you've ever treated with these kinds of bullets. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, is it possible that you may have misidentified them because you didn't never seen them before?
No, it is not.
Could you explain to me how you knew what they were? Did you get a ballistic forensic person to come in and take a look at them?
Yes, the government gives us identifiers for the different types of rounds.
Very well, very well. Now, obviously, you're a very good doctor to save this gentleman's life, and we do appreciate that. You said that you were not quite sure what sort of weapons that these bullets could have been fired from. Is that correct?
No, sir. I was, like I said, 100% sure that there are only 3 weapons in this city capable of producing those types of wounds. There is a 5.56 and a 7.62 AR used by PD, and then there is a 7.62 RAS-47 used by others.
Okay, so there could have been some police firing these weapons, but it also could have been other citizens that were firing these weapons. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're not sure who did what. You were not at the scene. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Well, I just want to make sure he was not at the scene.
Oh yeah, brother.
Yeah, overruled. It's relevant.
You were not at the
Define
scene.
at the scene because
You
I
were,
was retrieving.
you were not at the scene while there were gunshots being fired. You did not see anyone shoot a gun. Is that correct?
When I retrieved people from the Code 4 situation, there were rounds, but they were farther away, so not directly at scene. No.
Okay, so you don't know who was firing any weapons in this particular case. Is that correct? You can't tell me for sure that a policeman shot Mr. Vasquez. Is that correct?
I cannot know.
All right, so it could have been anyone. That's what you're saying.
Anyone capable of possessing that type of weaponry, yes.
And anyone could contain that sort of weapon. Isn't that correct? You said so yourself.
Yes.
All right, all right. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. K. Mr. Wolf, do you have any
Yeah, we'll
redirects?
be seeing you in an ocean.
No, I do not.
Excuse me, what was that comment from the gallery?
I believe that man is Riley Brody, sir.
Who
All
over
right,
here
can you-
snitching like 6'9" over here, man?
Can
What
you
you guys doing
just
over
keep,
here?
just keep it to a minimum, please?
What was the
Yeah,
comment?
Riley.
Yeah, what was the comment?
Yes, sir. Shut.
Thank
What
you.
was
I'd
the
like to
comment?
keep this civil. That's all. We have a lot to get through here, and it's a very serious matter. Okay?
Judge, can I say something, Judge?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf, is prosecution resting?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Van Hagen, for your testimony. You may step down now. All right, Mr. Wolf,
Yes, Your Honor.
do you have any further evidence or witnesses to call at this time?
We do have a witness right now who's waiting on the train. I'm not sure how do you like to proceed. If you'd like to call a recess or possibly continue the case until we could get her in here.
And what spot are they on the train?
They are the first.
They are the first.
Yeah, anybody want to get chopped?
All right. So, do you have any other witnesses besides that person?
Negative, Your Honor.
So that's your last witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we're going to take a 10-minute recess real quick. Everybody go smoke if you got them. Make sure you don't forget to eat because you don't want to pass out and get baby birded.
Oh yes, for sure.